The story begins with a man apologizing to someone and his daughter yelling at him to have some pride and not to bow before them, as that girl was the one who hit her first. The parent of the girls was ordering the principal to expel her from the school. The principal told Minji's father that it was her third time hitting someone, and the girl she hit, Hyori, her father was a politician who was trying to maintain his political image and that he was no joke. He suggests he apologize to them and clear things up before it's too late. And that's exactly what he does. He apologizes to them and blames his parenting for her behavior while Minji kept asking him not to apologize to them with teary eyes. Minji didn't have a mother, so it was up to him to take care of her alone. While coming back home, Minji lashes out at her father for being so weak and poor while everyone else's father was some CEO or politician. She hates her classmates, she hates her school, and she hates him for being as he was. She further goes on to even say that if it was going to be like that, then he shouldn't have let her born in the first place. All he could was just listen to her. After saying all that to him, she goes to her friend, Hina's house, and told him not to look for her or she would be even more pissed. He wanted to stop her but couldn't. On her way, the girl, Hyori, stops her. She was with many other students as well. She hits Minji not expecting her to fight back, but Minji hits her as well. Hyori's boyfriend comes in the way and kicks Minji. His name was Sun Minho, and he was a member of the KK crew. Minji insults them, calling their action childish. The guy gets angry at her and starts beating her brutally. Even the other bully there think that he was going overboard and they should stop him. But instead of stopping him, Hyori runs toward her with a brick in her hand and hits her with that with all her strength. Minji falls to the ground unconscious, and her blood splatters all over the place. Everyone starts to panic and wonder if she was really dead. Even Minho was terrified now. One of them tries to call 911 but Minho threatens them saying they were all accomplices in this. And if he gets caught, everyone else would be changed as well. He calls his crew head and requests him to take care of the body, but he denies it because he had just joined the crew and was a newbie. Hyori takes the call and told him that she was the daughter of Ju Kangchan, the CEO of Joyoung Construction. At home, her father was waiting for her and it was getting late. On the other hand, the boss of the crew himself comes there to take care of the body. He told her that he was helping her just because she was the daughter of the president and assured her that he would take care of everything. He told her how there was a new compression machine from Japan that shrinks the body to as small as a fist. Even he was shaken inside out after hearing that. We see at the back of the car was the body of Minji, who was most likely dead. At home, her father fell asleep while waiting for her. When he wakes up and sees the time, he goes outside to look for her himself. Outside, where the fight took place, there were many people gathered to see the blood trail on the ground. He also stops there to see what was going on and notices a ribbon. The ribbon was the same as the girl Hyori was wearing at school. He calls her friend Hina. She had told him that she was going to her place earlier. She told him that she wasn't with her that day. He ends the call and started thinking about all the possibilities, and now, he was furious. Hyori was still scared and asked Minho if everything would be alright. He assures her saying all they need to do is to keep quiet, and that Minji's father was also messed up so he wouldn't be a problem either. As they were leaving for their home, Minji's father comes out of nowhere and stops them. They were terrified. He asks them if they had seen Minji. Minho gets angry at him for sneaking up on them and grabs him by the collar, threatening him to leave. Hyori was trembling in fear after seeing him. Minho told him that they don't know anything about her. He shows Hyori her heart eye and asks her if it wasn't hers. Minho was pissed now and was about to hit him. In the past, a guy named Sergeant Kim had taken a superior officer as a hostage and demanded to discharge him. They were trying to calm him down but it was useless. They talk about a girl and how they didn't know she was his fiancée. They try to talk him out of it but he fires the gun in the air and the officer orders them to discharge him, as he was really going to kill him. This guy was Minji's father, and he was completely mental from the start. In the present, Minho takes his shirt off to fight him and tears his shirt off of him as well. But what they saw completely terrified them. In that past incident, the other officer was not agreeing to discharge him because he was their biggest weapon. The officer starts reminding Sergeant Kim of how many missions they had accomplished together. They took over the North 17 times, sent double spies to the South 5 times, and were jailbroken 2 times, the first Grayton's assassination attempt in North Korea. North Korea even has a sentencing, and in China and Russia, There's even a team dedicated to him, and they didn't want to lose him at any cost. His present itself was a diplomatic problem. In the present, he beat up Minho in just a few seconds and he couldn't even keep track of his speed. Kim asked him again where his daughter was in a furious tone. He was choking him with the hatai. Hyori screams out in terror, begging him to stop. In terror, her legs also gave up and she falls to the ground. Kim asks him for any hint, even a direction where they went. He didn't know where they went, but he did give him his crew head's name. He was the one who contacted the boss. At a house, KK crew head, Oh Min-chil was beating a civilian because he hadn't paid his debt to him. He was beating him brutally in front of her daughter. He had threatened him that if he didn't pay the money in time, the one who would suffer was his daughter. He was taking her daughter with him and made him watch them taking her. The girl was crying out for someone to help. Just then, Surgeon Kim also comes there with a briefcase. The crew head sends one of his men to check who it was. When he comes down, he sees that the front door was already open. He tries to alert them about the intrusion, but they only hear loud noise. Someone comes to the door of that room and starts banging on it. The other member was ready to attack as soon as someone comes inside, but the girls warns him in advance. The guy hits his own gang member instead of Kim, and Kim strikes back. Kim ties him with a rope to the ceiling and asks him where Minji was. He says he doesn't know what he was talking about and asks him crew head for help. But instead of helping him, he was planning on running away. Kim tries to catch him, but he managed to escape from him. As he was running, wondering who he was and how did he find him, he trips on a string and falls to the ground. He screams who put the string there and sees the whole alley was filled with traps. Kim catches up to him and ties him to the rope as well. He takes him to the house and starts beating him brutally, but he still wasn't talking and kept denying that he knows anything. He told him that he only contacted them on the telegram, and it was up to them to contact him when they need him. Kim knew that he was lying and broke his arm. The father and daughter were terrified to see his brutality. The crew head threatens to sue him over this as he was still a minor, so he would only get a warning. But Kim doesn't care about anything at the moment and kicks him in the face. He takes out his gun from the briefcase. He told him how he was feeling right now after losing his daughter while putting the silencer on the gun. He points the gun at him and says that he was ready to face the consequences. The guy was horrified as he knew that he was not bluffing. He was really going to shoot him if he doesn't get what he wants. Terrified, he confesses that he was not a minor and Kim really shoots him in the leg. He told him that the only reason he was letting him live is that he still thought Minji was alive. He threatens to kill anyone who causes her daughter even slight trouble. The crew head calls him a mental. Kim takes his phone and at the same time, he gets a text message from them. The message was that they were about to load her in the boat, and before loading her in, they made sure that she was dead. Seeing this horrifying message, Kim was broken from the inside. He couldn't hold his tears back and immediately messages them back to have a voice call with them. They received the message, but the boss told him not to respond, suspecting it was the cops. They delete the group chat and threw the phone. Kim asks the guy while crying what that meant and told him to contact them again. He told him that it was impossible to contact them now as they had deleted the group chat. But Kim doesn't care now and told him to contact them no matter how. While he was interrogating him, the old man grabs the knife and stabs Kim from behind. The guy compliments him for doing so and told him to stab him a few more times. The old man did that so that the guy doesn't collect the debt money from him. But Kim managed to avoid the knife from hitting any vital spots, and now he was furious at him and was about to kill him. Just then, the cops come there. They were horrified to see the scene and asked for more backup. At the police station, the whole precinct was in uproar while the gang members were accusing him of trying to kill them. The cops try to find out about his identity, but they didn't get anything on the phone. They try to find out about him using his fingerprints, but they were shocked when they see his profile was blocked. They wonder how was that even possible. The guy told the cops that he was looking for his daughter and started beating him in front of the cops. Two big cops come there and they stop him. Kim's phone, which was in the cops' possession, gets a call on it. The cop reads the caller's name. It was her daughter. Hearing this, it was like he just woke up from slumber. The cop helps Kim get up and sees that he had already taken his handcuffs off and was shocked. The guy who was holding the phone turns around to ask them about the suspect's daughter when he sees all the officers and the thugs on the ground. He couldn't comprehend what was going on and Kim attacks him as well and told him to be silent. He picks up the call and asks if it was Minji calling. No one answers from the other side and ends the call. He tries to redial it, but the phone was now unreachable. After that, he just leaves the police station like nothing happened. After he was gone, the high-ranking sergeant was scolding the officer. Just then a guy in a coat comes there and slaps the senior sergeant and takes away his badge. This guy was from the National Special Operations Department, Director Kang Guk-cheo, code name, Ground Dog. He was specially looking for Kim and called him COD 66. They were trying to track his phone and were shocked that he still has it, wondering how could he make such a mistake. They track him to a taekwondo center. A man named was teaching kids taekwondo when he sees Kim. This man is Song Han-soo, national gold medalist in taekwondo. He asks him why he came there after all this time and presumes it must be something extremely important. Kim told him that his daughter died, but he was not sure if she was actually dead because of the call he got earlier. He knows that he should throw the phone, but he was still for her to call. And he also knew that he was being chased by those guys and asked for his help. Han agrees to help him because he had saved his son's life once, and this was his form of repaying. Han was going to take the kids to the safer location first, but Kang-duk was already there. He was playing with the kids when Han attacks him without any prior warning. But Kang-duk grabs his leg and gets smug. Han attacks him with his other leg, but this time Kang-duk wasn't able to dodge it. Han was telling the kid to go to a safe place when Kang-duk attacks him, which Kim blocks. Kang-duk recognizes him and was excited to finally find him. Han kicks him in the face again, and the rest of the detectives also come there. Han was beating all of them one by one. They were shocked to see him almost flying and defeating them one by one. One of them recognizes him. He told the others that he was so good at taekwondo that even North Korea invites him. Han and Kim run from them. Han asks Kim what he needed, a weapon, transportation, or to heal him first. But Kim demands the bunker. They get inside a van and get out of there. From the outside, it looks like an old crappy van, but inside that van was a whole setup to track and all kinds of stuff. Han guides him through the process to track her daughter's phone, and he manages to find it in just a few minutes. But the location was a bit far from there. They arrive at the location where her phone was, but there were a bunch of high schoolers who had made a gang called Gyeonggi Nambu. Han asked him if he was sure that her daughter was there. The vice captain of the crew told them to scram because today was their crew's meetup. They don't listen to him and keep moving forward to the exact location where the phone was. The vice captain gets pissed and grabs Kim from behind. Kim tackles him to the ground in an instant and puts his foot on him. He derives to him Minji's appearance and asks him if he had seen her, while the other gang members attack him, whom he easily defeats. The vice captain replies that he hadn't seen her, and Kim threatens him not to get in his way. Inside the building was where the meeting was going on, and their boss was Shin Sun-go, Gyeonggi's undefeated boxer, who conquered 3 schools. Outside the building, Kim was taking them down alone while Han was asking around if the others knew about Minji. The delinquents get pissed and attack him, but he easily defeats them. The other students don't even try to fight him, let them passive. They beat the hell out of anyone who comes their way along the way. Kim arrives at the first floor and number 2 of the gang was waiting for him. He attacks Kim and sees that his chin was unprotected and goes for it. But Kim just easily dodges his attack and starts beating him continuously. He started to get furious at them for trying to get in his way. He arrives at the central building and searches for the boss of the gang. He was pissed to see Minji's phone in his pocket. One guy tries to mess with him and he slams him onto the ground in just one hit. He beats all of the goons as well and goes to their boss and asks him where he got that phone. The guy looks at Minji's picture and disgustingly says that she was the girl he slept with last night and that she was great in bed. He shouldn't have said that because now Kim was furious. After some time, we see that the guy's face was fully busted and Kim was still going on. He puts a pen between his fingers, then stomps on it. The guy screams in pain. Han stops Kim, otherwise he really would have killed him, even though he confessed that he was joking and had never met her daughter before. His goons found her phone with some other phones and bring it to him. They have someone who could open anyone's password. The guy took Minji's phone and was going through her pictures when accidentally he called her father. The call from before in the police station was accidentally clicked by him. Kim was devastated because it was a dead end. The guy told him that he was the only one that used to call her and she didn't have any friends. There was one girl who used to contact her, Hina. Minji had told Kim that Hina was her best friend, but the guy says that she was not much of a friend. Kim goes through her chats with Hina, and what he saw completely shocked him. The guy told him that the Hina girl was using his daughter as a shuttle. In the past, when the girls asked for her phone but she denies it. Hina says that they were friends so she should help her. Minji never had a real friend, so she mistook her for her best friend, while they were mocking her behind her back. Just thinking and finding out about all this was causing his blood to boil. He blames himself for being so blind all this time, while his daughter was being used and bullied. Just thinking about all this, he felt horrible from the inside. Han snaps him out of it and told him to stay strong for now. The guy told him the location where his men found the phone. It was a beggar who gave them the phone. They asked the beggar where he found the phone. The beggar was hesitant to tell them at first, but when they threatened him with cops, so he agrees to tell them. Earlier, a car stopped near him and threw a wallet and the phone. After they were gone, he took the phone and the wallet when the guys from the high school see him using an expensive phone and exchange it with a bottle of booze. Kim asks him about the license plate but he didn't notice that. All he knew was that the car was a white BMW and the one who came out of the car was bald. Kim says to himself that he was going to find him in 5 minutes. On the other hand, the boss arrives at his destination. He covers up her body and throws her in the freezer. Now that all of it was done, he was going to blackmail President Ju now. That was his plan from the very start. He says that President Ju was a monster who pulled out all his teeth, and from that day on, he was looking for it to get his revenge on that guy. But then his daughter killed a person and called him. Just then, a cop comes there and told them to show their identity, but they kill him as well and throw him into the same freezer. They mock Hyori for believing their story about the compression machine from Japan. After they were gone, we see a hand coming outside the cover. It was Minji's hand and she was still alive. On the other hand, Kim told Hansu that they had to find her in just 5 minutes. Hansu was surprised and asked him to give him 6 minutes instead. They both get inside the bunker and try to track the car. They were using face recognition of that beggar to find out about the time when he saw the car. The facial recognition was a success and they found the white car. They searched for the car owner from the car number. But this was not their car, this was a rental car. All guy comes out of the car to throw the bags and the smartphone into the dustbin. Hansu suggests using facial recognition to see his criminal record. They insert the recording of the car to find the car's location through their bunker. As it was just about to complete the process of finding the car, a different car hits their bunker. The whole setup was destroyed, but Kim managed to see the location of the kidnappers. The location was 9 kilometers from there. Their car was now completely upside down and the one who was driving the other car was the detective who was chasing him. He was also injured badly but still hadn't given up on catching them. Kim has had enough of him and decided to kill him and get rid of him. The gate opens and the one who comes out of the car wasn't Kim, it was Hansu. Earlier, Hansu stopped Kim because killing him would bring even more trouble. He was buying some time so that Kim could escape. The detective keeps asking him about code 66 and suddenly, the car behind him blows up. The detective was baffled to see that, while Kim manages to escape, he jumps into the river to escape. The detective was pissed at Hansu. Seeing up close, the detective realizes who he was and shoots him, but Hansu kicks him so hard that he went flying. The detective reveals that the first shot was a blank and now he was shooting to kill him. The detective makes fun of him for being this weak and how his kick is used to break stones into pieces. The detective lost sight of him and we see Hansu almost flying above him and landing a powerful kick. The detective manages to dodge the attack and the kick really shattered the road. Hansu told him that his first kick was also a blank attack. Out of bullet, the detective fights him with the knife, but he was no match for Hansu in hand-to-hand combat. Just then, the rest of the detectives also come there. While the detective was distracted by them, Hansu gets into a special position and was about to use the jumping back kick. But the detective was sure that he couldn't attack him with that move from that distance. He was sure that Hansu did some mistake in calculating the distance because otherwise this wouldn't make any sense. All he could do was just stand there and observe and Hansu was doing 3 spins in the air. At least that's what he had thought at first, but when he gets kicked by Hansu, he realizes that he did 4 spins in the air. The 3-spin talent is an overwhelming talent, and he never thought he would see 4 spins. Hansu takes the detective with him and jumps into the river while the other detectives were just watching. On the other hand, Kim finally arrives at the dock where his daughter was held. He finds the car he was looking for and follows the blood trail. Inside the freezer, Minji was trying to get help from someone, but no one answered her calls. Tired, she sits in a corner and starts crying, remembering his dad. Just then, someone enters the room. Minji expects this person to be her dad and was about to cry from the relief, when she realizes it was not her dad but the guy who kidnapped him. He was trying to call President Ju, but he was not picking up, making him angry. Just then, the boss guy sees the footprints of the core. He was just assessing the situation when the cop attacks him. He wasn't dead yet. The boss stabs him again, making sure he was dead for good this time. Meanwhile, Minji was watching all this and was terrified. She sees that the boss was trying to call President Ju. He picks up his phone in front of Minji. He was so caught up in the moment that he didn't realize that Minji was not even there. And before he could find out, President Ju calls him back. He heard about what his daughter doing and wanted to talk to him in person about this matter. But the boss guy was pissed at him for faking being a nice person. The boss threatens to reveal what his daughter did to the girl if he didn't come to him alone. Ju assures Hyori that he would take care of everything. She warns him about her further, but he didn't give it any thought. President Ju orders Director Nam to prepare 5 billion won cash. After talking to the president, the boss now couldn't wait to take his revenge on him. As he was blabbering about how excited he was to meet him, he sees Minji inside the freezer, alive. They both were shocked as hell, but before the boss could enter the room, she manages to close the door in terror. In anger, the boss calls his men, but they weren't answering because they had a visitor, who was none other than Kim himself. He gets inside the container and locks the door from the inside. As usual, he was pissed. They had no idea who he was and what he was doing there on his own. One of them starts acting rude to him and asks him who he was and where did he come from. He shows them Minji's phone without saying a word. On the other hand, the boss was pissed because they weren't answering. Just then, he gets a call from the rest of his gang members who were also there. The boss asked them if Kang-min was also there. They were talking about the mysterious guy in a hoodie. The boss orders him to go to the office first and see why they weren't picking up. Meanwhile, inside the office, everyone was on the floor, injured. Kim was chasing the last guy who managed to escape. He asks him why he was chasing him, and if President Ju was the one who sent him there. Kim didn't know what that guy was talking about. He climbs on top of a huge crane, and when he had nowhere to run, the guy confesses to him that she was already dead when they brought her there. Kim asks him what he was talking about and what President Ju had to do with any of this. But the guy didn't answer him and jumped off the crane. He tries to grab onto the wire and to the bottom safely, but the pain was so excruciating that his hand slipped and the guy falls to his death. The rest of the gang arrives at the office and reports the situation to the boss. Sang-min, the guy who fell to his death, was not the only one to escape. One more guy named Burger escapes as well. But as he was about to escape in his car, Kim finds him and starts breaking the window. But the window was too strong. Burger starts cursing him and challenges him to open the door, which he easily opens. Now the guy was terrified seeing him and started spilling the beans without being asked. He told him that the girl was freezing inside the freezer and they were also lying to President Ju that they were handing her over to Japan to get rid of her. But before Kim could ask him more, someone attacks him from behind. It was the rest of the gang members. They attacked him and instead of Kim falling, the bat got bent instead. While Kim was beating them, Burger manages to escape. He finds a truck and was planning on running when he sees Kim still following him. Kim suddenly comes in front of him and breaks the window. The truck bumps into something and the whole truck falls into the sea. But Kim didn't let him sink and takes him out of the water safely. Kim asks him to take him to the freezer where Minji was. Inside the freezer, Minji was now could bar the cold. The boss offers her to open the gate and he would let him go. Just then, Kim also comes there. President Ju was also on his way to the dock. He leaves everything to the planning director Nam. His driver asks President Ju why he was letting someone like Director Nam get involved in some random gangster matter when they could deal with him without much effort. The president told him why and how that guy has survived till now. It's because he was a sly fox and doesn't trust anyone. The boss was negotiating with Minji that if she comes out, they both would walk together to bring down President Ju, and that he would let him go. But Minji knows he was lying and mentions how he would kill her just like he killed the police officer. The boss told her how he was genuinely planning to let her go, but since now she had seen him murder someone, there was no way he could let her go alive. Minji was terrified. Just then, he sees Burger all injured. He asks him what happened and suspects he was planning something with President Ju behind his back. This is what President Ju was talking about. He doesn't trust anyone, not even his men. But Director Nam wouldn't come out just for that reason alone. President Ju asks the team leader if he had heard the urban legend about someone who takes orphans away and fosters them into emotionless monsters. Director Nam had mentioned that there were some dangerous guys that came out of the market, and due to that, he had personally asked him to leave this matter to him. As long as that thing is hitting you, he is planning to kill you for real. President Ju asks him if he could win against him. At the dock, Kim was about to attack the boss. The guy blocked his attack and immediately strikes back and aims for his eyes. This guy, Gangman, steps back after landing his first blow. The boss was encouraging him to attack, but he was shocked to see what just happened. His both fingers were broken. Kim had managed to block and even inflict damage in a split second. In an angry voice, Kim asks him if he was with them as well. Gangman asks him if he was President Ju. The boss informs him that he was someone working for President Ju, calling him son. Just then, Kim suddenly attacks him, which he dodges with ease and tackles him on the ground. He was aiming to crack his shoulder, but before he could do that, Kim attacks him directly in the face and starts beating him continuously. But this time, Kongmin caught his fingers instead and broke them. Kongmin was about to tackle him again, but this time Kim double tackles him and threatens to crush his back if he doesn't give up. But the boss meddles and gets him off of him. The boss gives him the order to stop holding back and kill him instead. Just then, Kim attacks the boss from behind, but Kongmin comes in the way and saves him. Now Kongmin was ready to kill him no matter how. Kongmin was young. He was around Minji's age. So instead of killing him, Kim decides to just make him give up. The fight begins. Kongmin attacks him with a knife continuously, and Kim dodges all of them. He locks him in body hold and told him that no father would ever make his son do something like that. Kongmin remembers how he met the guy he calls father. He had no identity, no relations, so even if he were to kill someone, the cops wouldn't find out about him. And to control him, one has to just say that he was his father, because he was a kid who just needed a family, and he would do everything to protect them. Kongmin's fighting style was brutal and wild. Even in a situation where there was no way to escape, he makes way for himself. The boss used him as a tool to kill anyone who was a threat to him or his business. He made him do some really gruesome job that no one would vouch for. Kongmin called him father, but to him, he was nothing more than a beast. Just thinking about all this, Kongmin couldn't stop crying while fighting for his life at the same time. After a few moments, Kangmin finally passes out, but he had inflicted much damage on Kim's leg. Inside the freezer, Minji was afraid that she was going to die freezing. She remembers how rude she was to his father and regrets blaming him for all her pain. Outside the freezer, the boss hears something and checks the freezer's door, and it was open. He sees a corpse covered in a blanket. He realizes that she was playing some tricks to escape. On the other hand, Kim was shocked when Kongmin gets up even after passing out just moments ago. He was attacking him like a wild beast, but Kim was still overpowering him. Kim would have killed him too if he wasn't that young. The guy says if he doesn't kill him, his father was going to kill him anyways. Kim was about to hit him but stops, thinking about what Burger had told him about her daughter freezing to death or already dead. Kim told him that there was no way a real father would kill his son. This is not a family. He leaves after saying that, leaving the kid to realize how he was being used by his father all this time, making him do things like that and even forcing him to kill the cops. While he was thinking about all this, Director Nam suddenly comes there and approaches his neck and killed him in an instant. Inside the freezer, the boss thinks that she was pretending to be a corp and starts stabbing it brutally. But then he realizes that someone was behind him, but it was too late now. She hits him with a rod with all her might, making him pass out. When Kim arrives there, he sees a corpse and the boss knocked out. He deduces that they must have fought amongst themselves and ended up in that situation. He tries to wake up the boss and ask him where his daughter was, but he didn't come to his senses. Just then, he sees some writing on the ground. It was written by Minji, who was asking his dad to forgive her for what she had said to him. Kim recognizes her writing and realizes that she was never dead. He was relieved to know that she was still alive. He was almost sure that she was dead and they were trying to hide this. He was still figuring out who was behind all this. And only one name was mentioned by all of them: President Ju. Kim now couldn't bear the anger and just wanted to get his hands on the culprit who was behind all this. But he realizes that his priority should be finding her daughter first. After he was gone, the boss guy woke up. He was pretending to pass out all this time. He was wondering what happened to Kang-min when he sees Burger closing the freezer's door. Burger locks him inside because he had tried to kill him. The boss apologized and also threatened him, but he didn't open the door. He was afraid that President Ju was on his way there, and if he finds him, he would be dead. Just when he was about to give up, the door behind him opens. He was thrilled, but what he saw outside completely changed his excitement into despair. Because the one who opened the door was Director Nam. The boss was terrified and wondered why he was there. Director Nam orders him to open his mouth so he could break his teeth again like he did last time. Outside, Kim was running around looking for Minji, calling her name. Minji was running for her life when she realizes that his dad was calling her. But because of the rain, it was hard to hear and she thought it was just her imagination. Because there was no way his father would come there. Kim climbs to the containers and screams her name as loud as he could, but because of the rain, it was impossible for her to hear him. Just then, he sees Minji climbing up the hill to get to the road, and she successfully finds the road. She asks for help from the people passing by, but they think she was a scammer and passed by her, leaving her in complete disbelief. Kim runs to the road as fast as he could, and when he reaches the road, he was shocked. On the other side, Director Kim was pulling out the boss's teeth one by one as he had done before. The boss used to walk under some local gangster and was pretty famous for his job. But his boss betrayed him for profit. But he survived the fall and went after his boss. He told him that he was ordered to do that by President Ju. He killed the boss and became the new boss. After a few days, he gets a call from President Ju and he wanted to meet him. The boss immediately recognized that he was the one who had given the order to kill him. The boss talks to him rudely, cursing him to his face. That ticks off President Ju and he calls him a wild dog, and that he knows how to tame a wild dog like him. He orders his men to bring the pot, which was filled with hard-boiled potatoes. They pulled out all his teeth and made him eat the hard-boiled potatoes. That's how crazy they are. When the boss couldn't bear the pain, he agreed to obey them from that point forward. He started to live like a dog and did whatever the president demanded him to do. And now in the present, after torturing him for some time, Director Nam told him that the president still wanted to give him another chance, and asked him if he would comply this time. They were going to use him as a scapegoat for this incident. Not only that, they were going to get rid of all the opposing politicians with whom they didn't get along. The director thought all of this in the midst of all this chaos. The boss laughs at him and asks him if he knows what life tastes like. Director Nam orders his men to stop him as he was about to commit suicide, but it was too late. He had already bitten his tongue. While dying, he told the director that the girl was alive and her father was following her. Before he could finish his sentence, Director Nam punches him in anger and orders his men to look for the girl and her father. On the road, when Kim arrived there, she was already gone and was nowhere to be found. She got a lift from someone, and that someone was none other than President Ju himself. Kim realizes that if he wanted to find her sooner, he would need some help. He calls someone and asks him if his license to kill was still valid. License to kill is the situation that gives the individual in the country the privilege of being exempted from murder charges. As Kim was running on foot to the location, Han-soo comes there on a scooter. Kim fills him in on the details and Han-soo told him that they should get out of there as a strong storm was coming. And we see the detective, who was rescued. He was super pissed and lashed out at his subordinates for being so relaxed and orders them to search for them. In an isolated place in the mountains, they clean her up and presented her in front of the president. President Ju asks her what happened to her, to which she replies that she only remembers waking up inside the freezer and meeting the boss who was trying to kill her. Then Ju goes on to ask her if she was friends with Hyori. She started fumbling her words and just said that they were not on best of the terms. The president started rambling about how much he loved her daughter, and he would do anything, cover up anything to save her. He told her himself that her daughter tried to kill her. That sent chills down her spine. She was terrified. He knew that she was trying to deceive him. Then inside the car, he knew that she was pretending to be asleep. Seeing her trying to deceive him, he perceives her as a bigger threat than he had originally thought and orders his men to take care of her. She begs him to forgive her and starts calling her dad for help. The guy was about to inject her with a lethal injection when someone rings the doorbell. President Ju was shocked because no one knows about this location. It was Detective, who was also looking for Kim's daughter, and they tracked her down there. When they didn't open the gate, they forced their way inside, breaking the door. The bodyguards there try to stop them, but he told them he was from the government and demands to get inside. All this time, the other detectives were keeping an eye on all of them. That's how they got he before Kim and Hansu. They assumed that he was looking for his only daughter, and if they get to her before Kim, they could catch Kim this time. President Ju was watching all this from the top. They aggressively come inside and start racking the place, while President Ju was still not fazed and was acting with calm. President Ju asks him what position he was on, and that ticks off the detective. The other officers inform him that there was no one inside. The detective orders them to just wait because, from the National Special Mission Bureau, the 6 gold stars were on their way. As they arrive at the location, the one waiting for them was Director Nam. One of them tries to get him out of the way but gets beaten up instead. One more of them attacks him and meets the same fate as the other guy. And now it was the old man's turn to show his strength. Inside the house, the detective mentioned that he still didn't have a warrant, but that wouldn't matter after they were done with them. Just then, the old guy enters the house, and the detective was shocked because the one who was behind him was directing him. He alone manages to defeat all the 6 gold stars on his own. The president told the detective how he fears nothing. Outside the house, inside the jungle, Kim and Hansu were watching all this. They knew that the detective would go after Minji if he failed to catch them. So they followed him and arrived at this location. Now that they were Hansu asked him how he was planning to get her out of there. To which Kim replies that there was only one way. The way they used to operate before. As they were about to get to the mission, Hansu stops him. We see that one of the 6 gold stars was entering the house from the back door. The detective was lashing out at President Ju for interfering with their investigation. Just then, one of the other detectives informs him that the warrant was cancelled and the Vice Minister of South Korea wanted to have a talk with him. After listening to the Vice President, the detective realizes that they were all in cahoot in this matter. He was frustrated at the system and warns President Ju that he would definitely come back for him. He gives the order to the officers to return. As they get inside the car, the president and the others kept staring at them until the end. The detective orders the officers to get out of there naturally. He was being so cautious because he had managed to get Minji out of there. Just then, one of the bodyguards informs them about this. They try to stop them, but it was too late. They were already out of their reach. Director Nam was surprised because they were weak and he had definitely taken all of them down. The detective mentions that they were top in their own field. He never said that they were good at fighting. Their objective was complete, and they took what they had come for. The 6 gold stars are more suited for search and secret operation than all battle. Now what had occurred from Minji's perspective. The president had ordered the team leader to take her underground and wait there until he gives him the signal to come out. When Minji opens her eyes, she finds a different guy, one of the 6 gold stars. She was grateful for them and expresses her gratitude. But she soon realizes that these guys were no better than the others and her situation was still the same if not worse. The guy choked her and made her faint. The detective compliments him on being like them now. Inside the other car, inside which the rest of the 6 gold stars were, we see a figure behind them. It was none other than Kim himself. He was ready to take them down. The director detective told them to not pick up any external calls because this was a big and sensitive matter which involves President Ju and Code 66. One of the 6 gold stars asks the senior what was so special about Code 66 that everyone was so worked up. The senior told him that it was an arrangement with North Korea. It was the proud North who consulted them first about this. The North had one condition: to hand over Code 66 to them. The number of official kills done by the Northern military under Code 66 was 49. That is why the North was so eager to get their hands on him. The senior told the guy that it was already 2 times, an attempted assassination on the North's supreme leader. The guy was shocked because they only knew about the first one. The first assassination attempt was during his time as a soldier. The second time was when he wanted to get discharged and go back to the North to meet his wife and his daughter. The officer was ready to discharge him but on one condition, and the condition was to kill the supreme leader of the North. The other gold stars were shocked to hear this, but one of them wasn't moving. When the other guy tries to wake him up, he also gets strangled by Kim. but the guys in front had still not noticed him. After strangling both of them, Kim attacks the rest of the two in the front seat. Seeing the car acting weird all of a sudden, the other officers try to contact the directing detective, but his phone was official. Kim uses the walkie-talkie to contact the detective and threatens to kill him if he even touches her strands of hair. But the detective was confident because they were already at the headquarters. He mocks Kim, saying how he managed to take his daughter under his nose and he couldn't do anything about it. But the detective was surprised to hear that he still hadn't given up even though they were already inside the HQ. He ordered to increase the amount of security both inside and outside, and put the target on the lowest floor of the interrogation room, and he would personally watch over her one-on-one. He was also curious to see what Kim would do to rescue his daughter. We see Hansu, who was hiding below their car all this time, and he was the reason why Kim was confident that he would save her. The headquarters was in an uproar. There was a level security. They take Minji to the lowest floor to interrogate her. When she wakes up, she freaks out finding herself tied to a chair. She told them that they were mistaken and she was not whoever they were looking for. The detective calls her by her name, and that surprises Minji. He asked her if she knew what kind of man his father was and what was his real identity. She told him that her father was just a regular person and he had nothing to do with anything bad. The detective gets impatient and told her that her father was a really famous spy. He was so well known that even other countries were keeping an eye on him. That's why he couldn't take any actions on his own, otherwise or spy from the north would come for him. He was silent for 19 years, but suddenly he is running around wreaking havoc. They didn't know the reason for his actions, but the mess he was making in the process was no joke and couldn't be ignored. He asks him if she knows anything about why President Ju was involved in this mess. She told him that she had a fight with his daughter. The detective was so furious to know that he was doing all this because of some kid's fight. He thinks of him as a dangerous guy who couldn't control his emotion. So, he orders the security to shoot him by mistake. Just then a soldier comes there and told the detective that the vice minister was looking for him and he was angry. After he was gone, Minji thinks about the things he said when she sees someone outside. The guy asks him if she saw something and she denies it. He goes outside to look around as he was sure that she had seen something. Hansu was hanging to the ceiling right above him, and when he realizes someone was there, Hansu attacks him immediately. After he was done with him, he goes to the room where Minji was. He takes her with him. She was curious to know who he was and she was about to ask him. He closes her mouth and hides from the soldiers, only to get spotted by another group of soldiers. But before they could even react and inform the others about them, Hansu attacks them and takes care of all of them in just a few seconds, not letting any of them escape. On the other hand, the voice minister was lashing out at the detective for causing all this fuss and even kidnapping a civilian in this mess. The detective accuses the vice minister of getting bribed by President Ju. The vice minister gets even more furious. The detective told him that the guys he was after were legends, and he needed to go to this extent to catch those guys. They went to North Korea like they went to eat a meal there. But if this was a normal situation, he would never permit a class emergency situation. The National Special Mission Bureau crackdown team, it had to be of this extent in order to catch these guys. We see that Hansu was surrounded by soldiers. He tries to run, but the detective had already a plan for that. He took into account that they might escape, and he called for the Northern Division Attack Force, Baekjusan, which specializes in stealth missions. As they were trying to escape, the team attacks him from above. Hansu avoids the attack but still gets injured. Now he was finally trapped and had nowhere to go. They wanted to take care of them quickly before North hears about this and makes a move. The detective also comes there and mocks him for overestimating his ability and thinking he could escape the headquarters of the Special Bureau. He gives the orders to take care of Hansu and keep the hostage. We see the stealth team lurking above him. They all attack him at once, and he had to fight them while protecting Minji. He puts up a good fight, but even he has only 2 eyes. He couldn't keep up with them while protecting her, and as she was about to get stabbed, the time for her seemed as if it was stopped. She sees some threads all around that area, and before they could attack her, the vice minister gets caught in the thread and orders them to stop. It was Kim. He threatens to kill the vice minister if they even move. The detective tries to make a move, but the minister gives all the soldiers clear orders to stop and drop all their weapons. As the soldiers start dropping their weapons, The detective yells at them for disobeying his orders. But the minister curses the detective and the soldier drop all their weapons. The detective warns Kim, saying he wouldn't be able to get out of there just because he was holding a hostage. But Kim had already thought about that. Earlier, he discusses his plans with Han-soo. They knew they couldn't climb the wall with Minji, so to make their plan work and get out of there safely, they needed a third person. And that third person was already on his way. He had already taken care of many soldiers and was lashed with powerful weapons. The detective was trying to demoralize him by saying that they couldn't even dream of getting out of there. The wall around him collapses with a blast. The wall that just collapsed leads to the parking lot directly. For their mission to rescue his daughter from the Special Bureau headquarters, they needed someone stubborn and crazy enough to get involved in this mess. This guy was Park Jin-kil, a really stubborn person, and there wasn't much information available. The detective gets blown away in the blast as well. One of the soldiers recognizes Jin-kil, but while he was distracted by him, Han-soo attacks him, takes Minji with him, and starts running away. The detective orders the soldiers to not just stand there and pick their guns up and attack them. But before they could get their hands on their weapon, Jin-kil throws a nade at Kim, who redirects it towards the weapons. The explosion takes care of all the weapons. On top of that, the vice minister keeps ordering them to stand by, otherwise he would lose his life. The detective was getting furious at the vice minister's cowardly behavior. Kim asks Jin-kil if the car that he had asked for was ready, to which he replies that he came right after listening to their strategy. He came all the way here running, with weapons as well. The detective has had enough of this. He says that there isn't a single commander who would order his soldier to drop their weapon. After saying this, he shoots the vice minister in the head, taking away the only advantage they had over them. The detective was determined to kill Kim today no matter what. He orders the soldiers to attack them, because their weapons were destroyed. They had to fight the three of them in hand-to-hand combat. The three of them destroy the first wave of the soldiers in just one shot, shocking the detective and the other soldiers. Kim says that it was better this way, because he couldn't just leave them be after what they made Minji go through. Minji was overwhelmed by all this, so Kim says that they had to take care of them quickly. The stealth team's leader thinks that they were joking, because there was no way they're thinking of getting out of there. While he was mocking them, he realizes that Kim was already in front of him, without him noticing. He beats their leader first and all of the other squad members attack him as well. While he was fighting, Jin-kil was having small talks with Minji. A knife comes flying at him, which he shoots with his gun without breaking his conversation with her. The rest of the fight, he fights the same way. When their attacks couldn't get to him, they attack Minji. But Han-soo comes in the way to rescue her again. As the fight went on, a thought flashed through the detective's mind. Maybe he was wrong to mess with him, but still, he couldn't believe how the stealth team lost. They were in the top 5% and were highly trained. While he was thinking about all that, there were only 20 people remaining, and the numbers were decreasing even more as time goes by. They were using simple martial arts, but how could they compete against military training? Jin-kil was even talking on the phone while fighting. The detective couldn't comprehend what on earth was this situation right now. And soon, the soldiers finally gave up. After he comes to his senses, he sees three middle-aged men in glasses standing in front of him. And all he could do was watch as they took his keys and left. He couldn't do anything as it was an overwhelming defeat for him. And now he even had to explain the death of the vice minister. On the other hand, Director Kim gets background information on Kim. He finds out that the girl's father was in special forces. But this still changes nothing. He could still just kill him. While all of this was going on, one of the soldiers was still inside the bathroom. He comes outside hoping nothing happened while he was gone. But what he saw was a completely different story. One officer told him that the central station was wiped out by one single man. They were talking about Jin-kil. This was the reason Jin-kil was late. They get inside the car and get outside without caring about the guards. Just then, the remaining guy announces that the central station was destroyed and they were to shoot outside any unauthorized vehicle. They start shooting at the vehicle non-stop. Kim fires back and injures one of them. Before the rest of the reinforcement could come, they were already out of their reach. Seeing this side of her father, Minji was baffled. He remembers the times that she had spent with him, and how he was just a normal loving dad. But seeing him in this state made her wonder if he really was her father. As she was about to ask him about all this, he hugs her. Kim apologizes to her for putting her in this kind of danger and not coming for help sooner. After going through all this, she was finally relieved and couldn't stop crying. Just when they were thinking that they were safe now, a truck crashes into their car, followed by two more trucks which sound them from the side. A truck in front opens its gate, and the one waiting for them on that truck was none other than Director Nam. He was with his team and all of this was his plan. He gives the orders to start the mission. The truck behind the car pushes the car inside the other truck. Jin Keel laughs at him for acting all tough when they were just kids. He was also curious to see what the kids these days were capable of. Park Jin Keel, strength unknown, nickname Otter 1, participated in the Civil War in West Asia 3 times, participated in the Civil War in the Middle East 12 times, participated in the dispute in Iraq 7 times, intervened in the Palestinian surprise attack 3 times, and much more dangerous mission lacked them over the years. He survived through all of that, with a total record of 189 kills. All 3 of the trucks pushed together and made the car go inside the truck. And that's how they kidnapped a whole freaking car from a regular road. Only Director Nam could come up with something like this. Meanwhile, Jin Keel still kept laughing. Inside the truck, the guards were wearing masks, and they started to fill the area with sleeping gas. Kim told Minji to just rest. He would protect her no matter what. After some time, 5 minutes to be exact, they stopped the gas and find out that they were out cold. He ordered the men to take the girls separately and drug the rest of them. They would hand them over to the police under the charges of driving on drugs. And Director Nam would control the media. As they were about to inject the girl with the drug, the rest of the men hear something was up. The man in charge of drugging them wasn't responding, so one more of them goes to check what was up. He found the guy knocked out and there wasn't anyone in the back seat as well. Just then, that guy also gets beaten by someone. Due to the smoke, they didn't know exactly what was going on. As they were about to move as well, the car starts moving and crushes one of them into the wall. The one driving the car was Kim, who was wearing a gas mask. He breaks free out of the truck, breaking the gate. He was not gonna let her be captured ever again no matter what. The director orders the other trucks to get them back inside the truck. As the trucks were about to push the car as they did earlier, Kim moves out of the way and makes the 2 trucks crash into each other. Now it was time for the truck in the back to crash. Kim hits the truck from a corner side, making it disbalance, and that truck was also out of the way now. Now the director realizes that he was not any typical thug. He was a highly trained individual. Kim says something in sign language, and that message wasn't for him, but for the guys behind him. We see that Hansu and Jin Keel never left the truck and were standing just behind him. The author compares Jin Keel with an otter, which is infamous for the cruelty of preying on animals larger than itself, and such animals are called a beast, a brute, and sometimes a predator. There was a multinational mercenary company named AKL that moves for profitable purposes only. They would engage in activities ranging from abduction to terrorism. They would do anything as long as they get paid. Their customers range from private companies to countries. In this mercenary company, there's a system called honorary retirement, and there is one condition to retire. The people who were once your teammates, you would have to kill everyone to leave. There was a guy named David on their team who wanted to retire, but he forgot about the condition and had to face all of them by himself and dies by their hands. While taking care of the body, the other members of the team also start showing disagreements with the retirement method, and they wanted to get out of this organization as well. They were telling all this to their leader, who was none other than Director Nam himself. He killed all of his teammates all by himself. And by the rule of the honorary retirement of AKL, he was free to go now. Now in the present, that same guy was facing Hansu and Jin Keel, who was just laughing at his face while letting his guard down. Director Nam suddenly attacks him, which he was unable to block, and receives the attack directly to the face. After he was down, Hansu attacks him, but Director Nam's fighting technique overpowered even him, a gold medalist in Taekwondo. Nam uses a knife and Hansu was now on defense. He was constantly dodging his attacks but not getting any openings to strike back. Hansu realizes that he was in big problem because he received too many hits and was bleeding badly. Director Nam corners him, and while Hansu was distracted checking on Jin Keel, Nam hits him. He barely manages to hang on to the truck. Director Nam told him that his friend got hit in the philtrum precisely and died on the spot. Due to the gravity of the situation, he was aiming for the vital spots without a single error. Hansu now realizes that this guy was a professional. He was quick to judge. The most important thing in the professional world is judgment. Due to the nature of the industry, which is always at the crossroad between life and death, the most important factor is judging the situation. On them, those from AKL are by far of the highest level. Director Nam was going to make it look like his death was just a mere road incident. Kim tries to come near and help, but Hansu told him to take Minji and run, while they take care of him. Just then, Director Nam realizes someone was behind him. He attacks at the same spot he did earlier, but this time Jin-kil blocks his attack, and that shocks Director Nam. Jin-kil falls asleep again and even started dreaming. He gave up on holding his breath during the sleeping gas stage. Eventually, he fell asleep. The human instinct of drowsiness and the boundary of willpower to wake up, somewhere in between them, you'll be in a state of fierce fighting. In other words, the him right now is in REM sleep. The director was furious at him for sleeping mid-fight and starts attacking him continuously. But Jin-kil blocks all his attacks even in his state. When his attacks don't get past Jin-kil, he gives up on attacking his face and goes for the belly instead. As he was about to attack, he receives a brutal punch from Jin-kil. Finally, this was the moment for him to wake up. He was pissed because Director Nam aimed for Dabin, her daughter's image that he was wearing. His strength was tremendous. Nam feels like he was just hit by a truck. Director Nam starts rambling about how he was mistaken, and how their death would be reported as a death from a fall. At that moment, we see that the judgment that he was so proud of started to break down. Jin-kil gets the smell of war from him and says he was like him in many ways, but he smells like a novice too. He acknowledges Nam's strength and decided to fight him earnestly and show him man-to-man. Team leader Han reports to the president that he was in some kind of problem, but the president doesn't cave. He loses or wins, because he was confident that no one could touch him. On the other hand, the fight between Director Nam and Jin-kil was insane. Director Nam was striking him with insane speed, but Jin-kil was blocking all his attacks precisely. Director Nam tries to launch a strong punch, but Jin-kil counters it with an even faster and stronger strike, which Nam receives directly to the body and fell to the down. While he was down, Jin-kil attacks him with his knees, which he barely dodges. Director Nam couldn't understand what was going on. Jin-kil was also using CQC, just like Director, so why Director Nam couldn't touch him at all? CQC is a skill to overpower the enemy within 30 meters. While he was thinking about all this, he didn't expect Jin-kil to attack him from that distance. But he was shocked when he got hit by him in an instant. He understands now. He didn't want to admit it, but Jin-kil was on another level. If Director Nam's CQC range was 30 meters, then Jin-kil's range must be. Director Nam was shocked to imagine his range. He wonders what kind of life this man lived to have this kind of strength and range. His mind starts flooding with the thoughts of the things this man had to go through to be on this level. Did he go to war every quarter? Or maybe he fought with the terrorist. Was he dispatched to a place like the Middle East for a few years? Jin-kil confirms his suspicions that he was going to destroy him for disturbing his friend's happiness. At that moment, a lot of thoughts crosses Director Nam's mind. Thoughts like if he wants to fight him, he would win against him. What was the range and gap? And much more. And the choice of Director Nam, who now recognizes the strong person, was simpler than expected. Running away. His choice might be futile, but what he did against such a strong person was the most suitable choice. Jin-kil also admits that he was smart and was making a good decision. He jumps off the moving truck because it was better to tumble down and break a arm than fight a monster like that. But he didn't account for was that Kim never left and was waiting for him outside. Director Nam could feel the rage coming from him. A thought crossed Director Nam's mind. First, was that the same person who kneeled down in front of them back then? If that was him, how many wrongdoings did he commit for him to live while hiding his own identity? And second, why was he now falling down? Jin-kil was still not done with him properly. He brutally beats him and slams him against the truck's wall so hard that his face appears from the outside. And finally, Director Nam was down for good. Just then, they arrive at their destination. The guy in front didn't realize that it was the director who was getting beaten up all this time, not the other way around, and they kept driving. They were shocked to see Jin-kil coming out of the truck instead of the director. Kim also arrives there and asks them to take care of Minji while he talks to that person. Jin-kil asks him who he was, to which he replies that he was an extreme parent who needed to know who was more of an extreme parent. The section chief comes in his way to stop him, but he takes him down with just one hit. He was furious and didn't want any more from them. The rest of the small fries attack him as well, but as expected, Kim takes all of them down in an instant. He told President Ju that they needed to have a talk. President Ju starts laughing because he thinks that Kim was the same as him. He would go to any length to protect her daughter just like him. President Ju reminds him of the things that he did wrong to him, how he pretended to be nice and was using his desperation for his public image. He had said many things to him that day. The way Kim raised her daughter in poverty. He called it child abuse and humiliated him in front of her daughter. President Ju offers him to walk under him, and he would pay him 100 million won per month. Kim remembers how his wife's last wish was that he took care of Minji no matter what he needed to do in the process. She had asked him to leave everything behind and just take care of their daughter. Minji's father told him that they should resolve their problem man to man. Kim told him to set the rules and he would yield a bit. President Ju has had enough and punches him first with all his might. He starts humiliating him and threatens him, saying that if he were to refuse his offer and decided to go for revenge, he would make sure to make Minji's life a living nightmare with his power and money. And there would be nothing he would do that could stop that. Even after listening to all his threats, Kim punches him anyway, remembering what his wife's last wish was. Kim answers him what President had asked him before, that he was from anti-North Korean operative Baekdusan Unit 1, code name 66. He told him if he doesn't decide the rule, he would decide for him,